do them by hand, okay? So the first thing that I said yesterday is we need to move the C to the other side. So the C needs to be moved over. That's step number 1. That gives me a negative 81. Okay? And then I'm going to draw my boxes because I need a C to add to both sides. So I'm going to have x squared plus 18x plus something equals, what's 1 minus 81 in Desmos? 1 minus 81. Type it. 1 minus 81. Negative 80 plus something. Okay, that's how we started yesterday. So in order to find that something that goes in both, I'm going to take my B. This is B, 18. And you can do this at the bottom of your sheet. We're going to do 18 divided by 2. So take half of your B. That gives you 9. And then we're going to square that. What's 9 squared? 81. Okay, so we're going to use 81. That's going to go in my boxes right here. On both boxes. The reason why I'm doing that is because this will factor out perfectly to perfect squares. And the number that goes inside is whatever was inside the parentheses here. This 9 that I had goes inside the parentheses. So it's x plus 9 equals, what does this give me? What's negative 80 plus 81 in Desmos? Negative 80 plus 81. 1. Positive 1, right? Okay, so once we have that, we can take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. That's going to get rid of this right here. So it's just x plus 9 equals plus or minus 1, because the square root of 1 is 1, and it can be positive or it can be negative. So once we have that, then you can split it into two different things. One is x plus 9 equals positive 1, and one is x plus 9 equals negative 1. Okay, and we solve. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. That's going to give me the answer there. And I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides here. That's going to give me the answer there. So type it in Desmos. What's 1 minus 9? Negative 8 is one of my answers. What about over here? What's negative 1 minus 9? Negative 10 is my other answer. Okay, you can also put it in Desmos. X squared plus 18x plus 81 equals 1. Just make sure that this 1 gets moved to the left side. So when you type it in Desmos, you are typing x squared plus 18x plus 81 minus 1, because I had to move this 1, move it over to the left side. It becomes a minus 1. And then those will be your solutions, negative 10 and negative 8. That's how you do it in Desmos. Okay, let me do problem number 2. We're going to move the C over to the other side, change the sign to a plus 4. Okay? 0 plus 4 is how much? 0 más 4? 4. Now I have x squared minus 2x plus something equals 4 plus something. Okay? I'm going to take this negative 2, the b at the bottom of your sheet, negative 2 divided by 2. That gives you a negative 1. And then we're going to square it. And that gives you a positive 1. So remember these two numbers. I'm going to need this one in a little bit, and I'm going to need this one right now. This one goes in my box. So it's a positive 1 on both sides. And then this gives me that x negative 1 inside squared. I got the negative 1 from here. Okay? And then 4 plus 1 is how much? 5. All right, that was the hardest part because then you can take the square root of both sides, just like we did here. Cancel out the square. So now it leaves you with x minus 1 equals the square root of 5. Okay? And then we're going to have the square root of 5. You can do a decimal if you want to, but you also have to add 1 to both sides. Okay? So that's going to be x equals square root of 5, whatever that gives you, plus or minus, plus 1. Now, how can you check that in Desmos? I'm going to type this equation in Desmos, and then I'm going to type this in Desmos, and you'll see that it gives me the answer, because that's how I want you to do it in the quizzes today. So type in Desmos x squared minus 2x minus 4. X squared minus 2x minus 4. Okay? Look at what it gives me. It gives me decimals. Okay? If I type my answer in there, x equals, what was it? Square root of 5, arrow over, plus 1. It goes through one of my solutions. Okay? So it's like I'm checking my answer choices. The other one is if I put a negative in front, it goes through my other solution. So that's why I said that it can be a positive or a negative answer. So that's why right here I put that plus or minus, because you're going to have two answers. One is a positive square root of 5 plus 1, and the other one is a negative square root of 5 plus 1. Those are my two answers. And you're going to see those in quizzes. And what I want you to do is I want you to type the equation and the answers and just make sure that it goes through the solutions. Okay? So we're going to practice right now. I want you to pause the video and let's go do some quizzes real quick so that we can practice it. Okay, also remember, and I'm going to write it down here so you can see that the quadratic formula is written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. And what we're using right here is your b. So it's always going to be b divided by 2 squared. Okay, so this is what you're going to be looking for in quizzes. They're going to ask you. They're also going to ask you to factor out things. So like these right here, when I divide this by 2, it gave me this one. When I divided this one by 2, it gave me that one. So just remember that to get the factor inside, you divide it by 2. Okay, so this one divided by 2 gave me negative 1. Okay, keep playing, and then I'll do the last 2 with you in just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do problem number 3. The 46 needs to be moved over to the other side. That's a minus 46. So now I have x squared plus 16x plus something equals negative 46 plus something. All right, remember to get the c, to complete the square, you have to take that 16 and divide it by 2 and square it. So 16 divided by 2 gives you 8. 8 squared is, what is it, 70? No, 64. So that's me completing the square. That's plus 64 on both sides. Okay? So when I do the factor, the perfect squares of that one, I'm using this number right here, the 8. So it's going to be x plus 8 squared equals, add these two. What's negative 46 plus 64? Positive 18. Okay, positive 18. So then I'm going to take the square root of both sides so that this cancels. That leaves me with x plus 8 equals plus or minus the square root of 18. Right? And then I'm going to add or subtract 8 from both sides so it can cancel. So now I have x equals plus or minus the square root of 18 minus 8. Now the square root of 18 can probably be simplified. If I do the square root of 18 simplified, we do the factor tree. That's 2 times 9, and that's 3 times 3. That means I have a pair of 3's that come out, and then I have a 2 that stays inside. That's how you simplify it. We've done this before. So instead of the square root of 18, now we have 3 square root of 2. So it's going to be x equals 3 plus or minus 3 square root of 2 minus 8. So one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. See if you can finish the last one by yourself. If not, do the quizzes.